Is the mic working? The mic is working. We have action, people. We're going to actually start. Okay, so welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here on time. I appreciate that some of you, I think, were led to believe it was going to start at 12:30. I think we said that so we could just give you a little buffer to actually get seated and things. So really great to have so many of you in the room today. Thanks for taking time out of your precious days to be here and hear a little bit from the Google for Work team. So my name is Kim Wylie, and I am the Change and Transformation Lead within the Google for Work division at Google. A little bit of a mouthful, and I'll explain a little bit about what that is as we kind of go into the presentation. But actually, just before we started, I wanted to just get a sense of who you all are, just so I know roughly what your kind of purpose of being here is. So could I just have a raise of hands for how many people knew about this before coming into the store today? Any of you? Lots of you. Good. Okay, thanks so much for coming. How many of you just saw it and thought, oh, this looks interesting? No one thinks this just looks interesting. Okay, this gives me a good sort of barometer. And I was wondering whether there's some people here just for the free coffee, but they've actually tucked the coffee cart away. After my session, you're very welcome to stay for free coffee, have a chat, sit on the magic bench that allows you to, I don't know if anyone's sat on it yet, if there's places you can touch and you can actually play tunes off each other's skin, have a go. I don't know how that works, but anyway, magic. So let me just explain a little bit about the Google for Work team. How many of you have heard of Google for Work previous to signing up for this event? Any of you? A few of you. Okay. So the Google for Work team is the team within Google that packages up the best of the consumer technology that exists within Google, bundles it with enterprise-grade security and services, and then makes it available to organizations so they can actually run the business on the technology. And this is, of course, the technology that Google uses itself to run all of Google. Okay, so just a quick story behind that. When Google was first founded back in the day in a garage by two very clever men in the US, and the company sort of grew over time, and we actually used the traditional workplace technology that was available in the marketplace. And over time, we got to the point where we realized actually to do the type of work and to get the type of results that we want at Google, we wanted to be able to have our people collaborating and working more closely together. And we found we couldn't really do that with the tools on the marketplace. So that was sort of the invention of things like Gmail. How many people have a Gmail account? Very good, gold stars. So Gmail and Google Docs, Google Presentations, which these slides are built on, Sites, Hangouts, and so on. So we built the products because we wanted to collaborate better as a company and to inspire innovation within the organization. And then what happened is we got other organizations coming to us and saying, hey, Google, could we use those tools to run our businesses too? So we thought, sounds like a good idea. 2007, we established the Google for Work team. And sorry, that light's right in my eye, I keep kind of dancing sideways. So 2007, we established the Google for Work team. And since then, more than 5 million organizations globally now run their businesses on this technology. So that's kind of the backstory to what this team is all about. So what am I going to talk to you about today? Presuming you can probably all read, but I'm going to talk to you about how technology combined with the right organizational culture can really fuel innovation within an organization. So if that's not what you're interested in hearing about, now is your chance to leave the room. I won't be offended, I promise. A little bit, maybe. Okay, so that's what we're going to talk about over the next half an hour or so. And then I'm going to stick around if anyone's got any questions about the technology, about culture, or about life at Google. So the way we work is changing, and I think that's the premise behind this whole workshop and the events that Selfridge has been running over the last weeks. For those of us who've been in the working world for a number of years, we maybe remember the days when we sat at a desk and we had various physical items on the desk that allowed us to do our job. Now, because of technology, we're actually not chained to our desks anymore. So some of the big macro trends that I see happening across the working world are the four that I've sort of called out here. So one is that we've now got 4 generations within the workforce. And actually by 2020, it's predicted that 50% of the workforce will be Gen Y. We've probably got a few Gen Y people in the room here, so welcome. And these are the people who don't even understand the concept of being offline, right? These are people who can, before they even get out of bed in the morning, they can watch videos, they can arrange a party, they can book a holiday, submit assignments, and that's without even getting out of bed. And that's because they're used to and expect to be able to work on a mobile device. It's really, really important for all of us who are working in the corporate world to consider the changes in the way we establish the organizations so that we can encourage and maintain and retain those people who are used to working and they're used to working with the technology. I'll just pause there for a second and ask what's probably going to sound like a slightly random question. How many of you use a toothbrush every day? A single toothbrush, and you use it multiple times a day? Hopefully everyone, I'm hoping. Okay, how many of you use multiple toothbrushes every day? Not me, no one, okay. How many of you have one mobile or tablet device that you use every day? How many of you have multiple mobile devices or tablets? There are more mobile devices and tablets in the world than there are toothbrushes. It's quite a kind of strange phenomenon, right, when you think about it like that. So everything is connected and everyone is connected. And our workforces are connected and our employees expect to be connected. There's a massive change, I think, to from the years past in terms of how people expect to be able to work. Here we go. So I'm lucky enough that I get to spend a lot of my time with the executives from organizations all over the world, large ones, small ones, various verticals and industries. And when you dig down into what is it that actually these organizations want to become better at, you can really boil it down into these 3 broad things. So most organizational objectives are tied to one of these 3 things. People want to be able to do stuff faster, they want to be able to do new stuff, and they want people to be able to do some stuff together, right? Efficiency, innovation, and collaboration. And these are the 3 drivers that are really helping organizations. If they can nail these things, this is how they are becoming successful. Okay. Let me just show a quick video. So some of you I know have sat in the room and seen some other videos we've had on play. Let me just show you a very quick video just to bring what the technology is to life that I was referring to earlier. So this is the Google technology. So that's the suite of products I'm talking about. And this is, as I said, this is the technology that Google itself runs on, and that we hopefully, there's some of your organizations who run on the same technology as well. But imagine how easy it is to work when things just work. You can connect with people from anywhere, anytime. Things just are made simpler and easier because you've got that right technology in place, and you can work from anywhere, from your mobile, and so on. But the right organizational culture is also really, really important, right? So we've got technology as a platform, but then when you marry that up with a really strong organizational culture, that's when you can get magic and innovation. Moving on to the next slide. Here we go. So organizational culture is what I want to spend the rest of this presentation talking about, and I think it's something very dear to the heart of everyone who works at Google. The culture at Google is reasonably, I guess, well known. We're recognized often as a great place to work, and I think having the right technology in place and then combining it with organizational culture, you can really see success. So sometimes I think people consider organizational culture as some fluffy thing that doesn't actually matter. But there's been a lot of studies done that demonstrate that actually the right culture can really drive success within an organization. So this is Laszlo Bock. I don't know if anyone has heard of him before. He's actually just released a book called Work Rules. So if anyone is interested in finding out more about the Google culture, have a look and at his book. It's really good. But I wanted to just share some of the Google secret sauce for organizational culture in case there's some elements there that you might be able to take away with you and try and embed in your own organizations. So at Google, our culture is based around 3 core tenets: mission, transparency, and voice. And I'll talk a little bit more about what those things mean as we go through. But essentially, mission is about doing work to try and solve big, hairy problems, make the world's information universally every opinion is valid and feedback is encouraged. And the idea is that if you hire people who believe in these things and you give them some freedom, that's when amazing stuff can happen. Okay. Just a little a secret about Laszlo that you may not know. He actually used to be an extra on Baywatch. So if you recognize him, it was a few years ago, but he was on Baywatch. Right, let's dive a little bit deeper into these culture pieces. So I'm going to share with you some tips of things that we know work well at Google. And the first one is, and I think this is applicable to every single organization, hiring the right people is the single most important thing any organization can do. If you cut corners on hiring and you don't hire people who are really fit the culture of the organization and who you know are going to work hard and live and breathe your culture, you're going to have challenges down the line, right? So hiring is really, really important. So a couple of things that we do at Google, which really emphasizes how important this is that every single employee at Google is actually involved in the hiring of other employees. So there's never anyone that's hired who's been interviewed by just one person. There's always at least 4 people. At least one of those people has to be from outside of the team or division that you are part of or that you're hiring for, so that we can hire people who fit the company culture. So we try not to hire people that fit that are just very narrowly skilled to only fit one specific job role. We want to hire people who fit the culture of the company. And that's really, really important. Just a little insight, as we do hire people, there's 4 sort of attributes we look for. Okay, the first one is what we call role-related knowledge. If you're hiring a software engineer, they need to have some software engineering skills, okay? The second thing is what we call general cognitive ability. Is this someone who's smart? Can they deal with tough situations? Have they got the brain power to be able to navigate sometimes complex environments? The third one is leadership. And even for the most junior roles within Google, we still look at leadership qualities within those people. And it doesn't mean that they have to have experience of leading teams or even that they want to lead teams. It's about thought leadership and having the courage to say what you believe in and stand up and actually have opinions on things. And then the fourth one is what we call Googliness, okay? It's an American company, so sort of apologies in advance for the cheesiness of that. We do call it that. And that's about finding people who have this ability to collaborate, and they want to collaborate, work in teams, they're inspired to try new things, and not afraid of failing. So it's about that collaboration, the teamwork, and those sort of sometimes qualities which are almost sort of hard to touch. So that's what we know to be true with regards to hiring at Google. And we use all of those technologies, all the tools that I showed you before, as part of our hiring process. So an example of that, the software engineers at Google, during their interview, which they might be having via a Hangout. Does everyone know what a Hangout is? So the video chat, the Google equivalent of Skype. So the video chat. So a lot of our interviewing is done via Hangouts. And the software engineers actually have to code live in the interview using Google Docs so that the interview panel can actually watch what they're doing live in the interviews. This is one example of how the technology is actually really a foundation of some of our hiring principles. The next thing that I wanted to go into a little more detail about is this concept that we say default to open. I don't know if anyone can recognize any people in the audience of this particular photo here. How many of you have watched The Intern, the movie? Google's not exactly like that. But some elements are, some elements are based on some truth. Anyway, the characters in the film here are at what we call TGIF. Thank Google it's Friday, which is actually an event that is run every single Friday. And the founders of the company, every single week, get up on stage and answer questions and talk to the whole company. So every single week, the founders still do this. They've done it right from day dot, and they're still participating in that every single week. So as an employee, if I wanted to ask Larry or Sergey, our founders, a question, I can do that. I've got a chance every single week to do that. That's a really powerful thing, I think, with regards to this concept of openness of the culture. Okay? One of the things that they do at TGIF as well is make every new person wear a hat like this, the Noogler hat, and I think we've even got a couple over here if anyone's interested in having a try of them later. Not hugely flattering, but you're welcome to have a try. So all of the Nooglers, before they become Googlers, they're Nooglers, they get welcomed at TGIF. The next thing that is specific to this culture of openness and transparency is that we have, so as most organizations, we have key performance indicators. We call them objectives and key results, so an acronym OKRs, but they are transparent and open for everyone to see. So we know what everyone else is working on within the organization. So nothing is hidden. We can see what other people are working on, so we can maybe help them out, find teams that we want to go and work with. And the results of those are also shared. Okay? So this is a real concept of openness and transparency. And one of the other things I just wanted to call out here, we hear it a lot at Google, is that feedback should be considered a gift. And I can see a couple of Google faces going, yeah, that's true. So we're all taught how to deliver feedback, and we're also taught how to receive it. And we're taught to receive it as if it is a gift, even if it's something that we don't want to hear. So if someone comes up to me afterwards and said, hey, Kim, your presentation was a bit crap because you did X, Y, and Z, my response has to be, thank you. Okay? So we have this concept of being able to share feedback with one another without fear of, me kind of attacking back or that someone attacking back. The next element of the culture that I wanted to talk about is the culture of innovation, and the idea that innovation doesn't just come from the top, or it doesn't just come from the innovation team, right? Innovation can come from anywhere. And at Google, we've found that some of the best ideas in terms of products within the organization have actually come from people who were reasonably junior in the organization and didn't have a background of being innovative or coming up with new ideas. One example of that was Gmail. So Gmail was an idea that a software engineer from the Sydney office. He's like, this other email systems, the non-cloud-based ones, they're clunky, they're slow, there's got to be a better way. And he came up with this idea during what we call 20% time. I don't know has anyone heard of the concept of 20% time? A couple of hands. So the idea is, and this is more for the engineering side of the organization rather than the salespeople or the marketing people as such. But the idea with the engineering part of the business is that they can spend 1 day per week working on whatever they want. Okay? So this is with a chance to come up with, technology-related stuff, obviously, just to frame that. But this is where they can come up with any wild and crazy ideas that they might have. Self-driving cars, or the irises. Has anyone seen the Google Iris? What's it called? What's the word I'm looking for? The contact lens. Sorry, having a mental block. Contact lens. So there's has anyone heard about this innovation project? So we've developed this contact lens. It's got a tiny little microchip in it that can actually determine blood sugar levels. So people with diabetes can get a notification, hey, your blood sugar levels are dropping through their tears. How cool is that? So, but there's a lot of wild and crazy ideas that we work on at Google. Not me personally, unfortunately, not quite that smart. But a lot of these wild and crazy ideas have come from this concept of 20% time. It doesn't mean that every single engineer only works 4 days a week and goes off and does other fun things the other time. They've still got jobs, real jobs that they probably need to work on 5 days a week. The 20% ideas, if they've got a good idea, then they'll be allocated time and resources to sort of build on that. The other thing I wanted to talk about here, particularly regarding innovation, and this is something actually my team spends a lot of time working on, and this is what we call the concept of transformation labs. And this is something we do within the Google for Work team with our Google for Work customers. So the organizations who decide to make the switch or start using the Google products, which we saw earlier, one of the things we do during the deployment with them is we run a transformation lab. And what that is we get a team of people together from their business and really deeply understand what are the challenges that they're dealing with day to day. And then we look to see how can we use technology to try and solve those challenges. So it's a reasonably simple concept, but actually, rather than talking about technology to lead change and to lead innovation, talk about what's currently going on and then look for solutions to help solve those problems that are actually based off the technology. The next thing I wanted to talk about is the concept of launching and iterating and failing fast. And again, this is something I'm not joking, we would hear this every single day at Google in various conversations. We launch and iterate. And the concept behind this is, if you've got an idea for something, try it out. Don't wait around too long thinking about it. Try it out, get some feedback, look at the data, and then make decisions about what you're going to do next. Rather than spending weeks and months and years coming up with what you think is going to be a great idea, only to launch it and find actually no one really cares or no one's interested. So the concept of just trying stuff, seeing the reaction, getting some feedback, and then deciding, okay, has this got legs, yes or no? Should we tweak something, try again, launch it? And that's how our products come to life. And even projects and the way that we work internally is all built off this launch and iterate, launch and iterate. To be able to do that successfully, you also need to not be afraid of failure, because failure happens. But I'm sure probably you'll all agree with me, at least for myself, some of my biggest life lessons have come from when I failed. You learn a lot more from failing than you do from succeeding. So to build that idea into the culture of your organization allows you to sort of celebrate failures, or at least celebrate the learnings you have from failures. And you might think, well, Google doesn't have any failures. Actually, one of the, I discovered recently, someone has created, I think it's a Pinterest board, which is called the Google Product Graveyard. And someone has pulled together all of these icons and images from all of these Google products that we launched, and we iterated a bit and found, actually, you know what, it's not sticking, let's park it, but take the learning and move it into something else. Don't know if any of you remember a product called Wave, Google Wave, or Google Buzz. Those are some recent ones. But actually, what we learned from doing those things has enabled us to create Google Plus and to build some of these collaboration elements into the Google Docs suite, which we showed you earlier. I'm assuming that image doesn't need explanation. How many of you have heard of Google Glass? This was one of the early versions. So the concept of it doesn't need to be perfect before you try stuff, I mean, this is real. This is not just a made-up picture for the point of the presentation. This is what the early versions look like. So don't make things perfect. Try stuff, get it out there, and then perfect them once you know which direction you should be going in. The next thing with regards to our culture, which I wanted to mention, is that it's important that your managers within the organization are pretty good. The relationship you have with your manager is actually the single most influential thing to your personal happiness at work. And I know myself, the times when I've been unhappy at work, obviously not at Google, but when I've been unhappy at work, it's actually been because I was unhappy with my manager. So managers are really, really important. Larry and Sergey, the founders, in true Google style, weren't necessarily convinced of this. This is probably before that research I just quoted came out. And they thought, you know what, we hire really smart people. I don't think we probably need managers. They can just get on and do their work. So they fired all the managers, got rid of everyone, and then just had, you know, they're obviously a lot smaller of a company than it is now. And what they learned, actually, managers are really important. So they went back and they hired a whole lot of managers again. But what they did is they actually made that decision based on their own research and based on data. And I think there's an important sort of connection there. So we do an annual sort of employee engagement survey, as I'm sure probably many of your organizations do. We also have an annual upwards feedback survey, which is a survey just on how's stuff with your manager. And then that data, as with everything else, gets shared, right? So we know which managers are doing a good job. We know which managers maybe we don't want to move into their team. So again, and that really inspires people to be good managers, right? It's important. And making sure they have the skills to be successful as well. And it's not one, we don't have this concept of, oh, you got a bad score, therefore you're out. There is often times that people just need some coaching or some help, or maybe actually they've gotten to be a manager through promotions, through being very good at a specific job, but actually managing is not a core strength. So put them back into an individual contributor role. Not everyone's born to be a manager. But giving people training and coaching to be successful is really important. The next thing I wanted to call out is the concept of continuously developing and growing employees and continuously challenging them as well. One of the examples I wanted to mention here is this concept that we have, which is called G to G, which stands for Googler to Googler. Again, more cheesy language, apologies, but what that means is that actually many of our learning and development courses within Google are actually facilitated not by a learning development team, but by other Googlers. And they can be formal courses, for example, leadership training courses, but they can also be informal things like cupcake baking or, anything you can imagine. We have courses for everything, and it's all employee-inspired content, right? And again, the technology that we're talking about, the Google Apps technology, is how we connect people. They run these Googler to Google programs over Hangouts. So you've got people in the US who are training people in London, who are training people in Asia, and it's all connected. So the skills across the organization are shared across the whole organization. We have a platform called Grow, which is where every employee can sign up for courses, can participate in 20% projects that they like the look of, that they can find new roles within the company as well. So we've gone too far, I think, on the slides. If we just go back one more. So internal mobility is really, really important. And yeah, the idea is, especially when you're really investing heavily in hiring the right people for the organization, you really want to make sure you keep them in the company. And no one wants to keep doing the same job forever. So encouraging people to move across the whole organization is really, really important. Okay, now we'll move on to the next one. And I guess this is what Google is kind of typically known for. Probably some of you have seen pictures or videos of what the offices look like. These are all pictures of real offices. I don't think there's any from the London offices there. Our London offices, we're a bit squeezed for space in London, so we don't have quite as many jazzy things. But the idea here is that if you create an environment where people are happy, they can be creative, they can work together, they can have random, spontaneous interactions with people who are outside of their team, is really, really important. So the slide is in Zurich, actually. I've been down it, but holding onto my laptop. You might see there's quite a sharp drop off the end. The first time I went down there, I did, and it's in the kitchen as well, so it's a bit embarrassing, lots of people saw. Anyway, you only do that once and then you avoid the slide. But we have food available at Google, we get given free lunch, we have lovely coffee, so we are very, very well looked after, right? But the idea, there's science behind it. If people are happy and they are engaged in their work, they're going to work harder and they're going to do cool stuff. So that's it's not just we're a charity and we want to give away free food to everyone. There is science behind all of this stuff. So, just to sort of wrap that up, I wanted to share just my top tips for what I hope you might be able to take away from this, and it's about getting the technology platform in place, building an organizational culture that facilitates that collaboration, the innovation, and the efficiency. So my suggestions to you, for those of you who are in a position to sort of influence what is going on in your workplaces, or maybe to try and make some decisions about what's next, these would be my top tips. So being deliberate about organizational culture from the start, if possible. So for those of you budding entrepreneurs out there who are about to kickstart your own organizations, think about this right from the start, right from when you're 1 or 2 or 3 people. What do you want your organizational culture to be about? What are the values you want your employees to associate with themselves? It's much harder to change a culture than it is to just do it right from the start. Give people the technology that they need to get stuff done. I think oftentimes when I'm speaking to people these days, they're like, we've got great technology at home, I can do everything from my mobile, but as soon as I'm talking about work stuff, they make it so hard for me to get stuff done because everything is locked down and everything is like slow and old and you know, it's just not the top of the range technology. It's just going to hinder innovation and it's going to stop people from, I guess, being inspired and creative at work. Really important that leaders of organization and managers lead by example, and that's both with regards to using technology and for embodying and living and breathing the values of the culture that you want your company to have. The only way that at Google that the transparency and openness works is because that's what the founders do. They set the example for the rest of us to behave. If they behaved in a way where they locked everything down and everything was secret, the rest of the organization would behave in that exact same way. Overinvest in hiring the right people. If you are ever you're hiring people now, or you're ever in a position to recruit people for your company or to help your organization recruit people, take it seriously. Overinvest in that, and you'll be able to underinvest in the offboarding things that you might have to do if you get the wrong people in. And then you will increase, you know, when you've got the right people, they'll be passionate, they'll be engaged, and they'll do their best work. If you set people big objectives and you hire smart people, don't then micromanage them and tell them exactly how to get there. It's the quickest way to kill innovation is by telling people exactly how to do stuff. Hire smart people, tell them what you hope they're going to get to at the end, and then let them take their own path there. Because if you hire smart people and then tell them exactly what they need to do, they're going to get bored and probably not do their best work. Don't be afraid of failure. Obviously, it doesn't include, you know, breaking the law and things like that, but be inspired to try things, test stuff out, even when things are not looking perfect. Test it, get some data and some feedback, tweak it, test it again, get some data and feedback, test it again. It's the same with your projects, the same with the goals of your organization. Launch and iterate. And then, if possible, have some fun along the way, of course. You know, it's very important that we enjoy ourselves at work. We spend more time at work than we do with our loved ones, more time at work than we do with our hobbies, more time at work than we do sleeping. So let's try and make it a fun experience for people. We can do that, hopefully, by getting the technology right and getting the organizational culture right. So I'll just leave you with one final quote, which I really like from Einstein. We cannot solve our problems with the same thinking that we used when we created them. And I think that really resonates with me, is that, you know, we're dealing with different challenges in the world today. To try and solve them by doing stuff that worked in the past is actually not always the right way of doing it. So think big, think differently, go boldly, and try some new things. That is the end of my talk. Questions? I'm happy to answer them, whether about the technology, culture, Google. Anyone? There's goodie bags for people who ask questions, if they're good questions.
Yes. Just a quick question. Let's say if you've got a business, let's say they're trying to use Google and products, or just sort of general answers.
It's a good question. So just to repeat it so you can all hear it, is if a company purchases Google Apps, are they able to customize it in any way? So the short answer to that is No, it's a package of cloud tools, so you get exactly the same as the Google version, right? But the options are through use of APIs and things that you can create your own, yeah, exactly, yes. And there's also a lot of third-party organizations who've built additional applications and technology that plugs very nicely into it. And another just kind of slightly related question, which I often hear from people is, so we've got 5 million businesses, or more than 5 million businesses on Google Apps. Do they all have their email addresses at gmail.com? And the answer to that is no, of course. So if it was Selfridges was using Google Apps, it would be kim@selfridges.com. So it's a different version or a different iteration of the product and the corporate version versus the Gmail version. Good question. You can get a goodie bag. Yes.
Is there a criteria for businesses who can use your apps, or can you be of any size?
Absolutely any size. So we've got a lot of companies who are companies which are just one-person companies, and a lot of companies that we've got which are more than 100,000 employees. So literally all ends of the spectrum. Yeah. So if you're thinking of starting your own business, this is a good place to start. Any other questions? You can get a goodie bag for that. There's one here, and then I'll come to you.
Thank you. Kim, can you choose different elements to buy? So say you don't want to have the whole suite, or not?
So there's a couple of different stacks of the product, but our recommendation is, and the pricing structure is, even if you only want a couple of bits, it costs the same. So take it all. Because I think the real value of the products is that they all work together. And that's collaboration is I guess the grounding principle of all of these products. So if you only take one piece of it, you kind of miss out on the really good stuff that the products are actually about. But some organizations say, hey, we've already got an email system we're happy with, but we'd really like the cloud storage and the Hangouts and the collaborative documents. So we've got some organizations who split a bit, but mostly we find the ones who are happiest are the ones who've gone all in because they get the real value from everything working together. But if you want to talk to someone in detail about that, come in, we can have a chat afterwards.
Thank you.
Hi.
Do you have any examples of businesses which have taken that leap from being probably quite stagnant businesses to becoming quite like truly innovative businesses? And what would you say were the sort of biggest enablers for them?
That's a very good question and right up my alley. So I'm the change and transformation lead. So this is exactly what I like to help organizations do. So there's a couple of, we've got loads of examples who organizations have come to us because they want to try and get a little bit of, I guess, that Google magic into their organization. And maybe they're from a very traditional or old-fashioned organization. They want to try and make that shift. I think, so we have a very specific and detailed change management approach, and we help with things like the transformation labs and things like that help inspire the change. But change is a journey for all of us, right? So every time we're asked to change or we want to make a change ourselves, we go through a version of a little change curve. And the methodology that we've developed is for helping organizations through that journey is designed with exactly that in mind. And top tips, again, is the executive sponsorship, having your leaders lead by example, making the communications for the project engaging and fun, training people on the new ways of working, inspiring them about what's possible, and helping them rework some of maybe the frustrating workflows that they've been dealing with, redoing that in a collaborative cloud product, saving them time and energy and just making things better is a real key to getting people to change. You can kind of connect at an emotional level rather than just a rational level, which is, we've been told to change, but why should I care about it? It's finding that and hook, what's in it for me. We can talk in more detail if you'd like. Any other questions? Okay, well, thanks so much again for your time. Really nice to have such a lovely audience, much more glamorous audience than we normally present to when we're speaking at Google events. Please come and have a chat with us over here if you want to find out more. And yeah, great to have you here. Thanks.